Hi, my name is George, and this is my ME 1301 Quiz 6 submission. And this is my dad, who I will be
Hello.
demonstrating everything to. So for this quiz, for this lab, I have to make this LED blink fast, and then at the push of a button, it will blink slowly. To do this, I set up in Arduino, my LED and my button pins. I basically say this is where my LED is wired to, and this is where my button is wired to. I say that my LED is in pin 4, and my button is in digital pin 12. Then I also set up a flag variable that's only going to be a value of 1 or 0. And then I also have a variable that's basically says this is when my button is pressed. So to start off, I say my LED is an output, which means I output energy to my LED. And then I say my button is an input, saying when I push the button, it's going to input power, basically.
Signal.
A signal, yeah. So then I have a loop that goes on forever. It just goes on, and everything inside of it is just gonna be repeated. So first I have some statements saying that if my flag is 0, which is if it basically keeps track of the state of fast or slow blinking. If my flag is 0, so it's gonna blink fast. I will write my LED to on, delay for like a fourth of a second or so. So it's going to stay on for a fourth of a second and then turn off for a fourth of a second. So that will make it blink fastly. Then I also read my button and see if it's pressed, and if it's pressed, I will change the state. So I switch the flag, basically. Then I have another if statement saying if my flag state is 1, which means if my
Button was pushed.
if I want it to be blinking slowly, I will write my LED to high, so it will turn on. It will pause for like 2 seconds on high, and then I will turn it off for half a second. And then I also read my pin to see if it's pressed, and if it's pressed, it will switch. So if I upload this to my Arduino, it will start blinking fastly, and if you push the button, it will start blinking slowly. If you push it again, it's so what happens then is that it wasn't, when you pushed it, it wasn't at the point where it would read the button. So there we go. And that is the first problem of this lab. So then let's upload that so it turns off. Okay, so then the second problem is I have to create a program that takes an input string between 3 and 8 letters and writes the letters using the XY simulator that one of our professors made. So I basically can type things onto using my keyboard, I type things onto a computer. So what I do is I start off by connecting to the simulator, sending that simulator home, which would basically it would start a graph and would start that graph off at 0, 0. Then I create a variable that keeps track of how many letters we've drawn, and I keep track of where my X position on the graph is. So then I have a loop that only goes on while my letters drawn is less than 8. So I can only draw a maximum of 8 letters. I display, please press the letter on the keyboard so that you know to press the keyboard. Then I have if statement saying if my letters drawn is greater than 3. So if you draw more than 3 letters, you can press 0 to end the program. So then I wait for a button press. So if we push a button in on the keyboard, it would then take the input string of the current character. So it would take whatever button you push on the keyboard and convert that to the ASCII value of a character. And then I have a bunch of if statements saying if this button was pressed, draw this letter. And if this button is pressed, draw this letter. A whole bunch of stuff. And that's for every single letter of the alphabet and a space. Then at the end of all these if statements, I increase the number of my letters drawn by 1. Then I also have a statement saying if we push 0, it increases the number of letters drawn to 8 so that you exit this loop and the program ends. So if I run this pops up, and if you push any alphabet letter, it will then draw that letter. And that's my dad's name. And then if you ever want to end, you can push 0 and the program ends. So that's this one. And the final problem for this lab is I have to basically create an Etch-a-Sketch on this same simulator that we have here. So what I do is I start off by connecting to my Arduino board here. I connect to the simulator that we have. I send that simulator home. Then I set up a conversion factor to convert the 5-volt readings from these potentiometers to the scale on the X and Y axis of the simulator. Then I also say where my potentiometers are connected to, which is A0 and A1 on this Arduino board. Then I just have an infinite loop that while it goes on, it reads the potentiometers and converts those using this slope into the XY table positions. So if I run this, we would see it has to connect to the Arduino first, which is going to take a little bit. Because I uploaded that stuff onto the Arduino board, it takes a little bit to rewrite all of that stuff in that lab. But at least the benefit of uploading it directly onto the hardware is that my stuff moves faster when I upload directly onto this instead of using MATLAB. So there we go. Now if you move the potentiometers here, you can see the XY table Etch-a-Sketch start moving also. And then if you move both of them at the same time, they should move in a diagonal line, like that.
Okay.
And that's my lab and my quiz. Thank you, Dad.